Hello and welcome back to the Matrix Green Pill podcast. I'm your host, Tilbury Hutchison, and today I'm joined by Jody Shield, a visionary entrepreneur, business mentor, and the powerhouse behind brands like Magnificent Money and Visionary Entrepreneurs. From a high-flying career in corporate advertising to hosting sold-out events and guiding over 100,000 women globally, Jody has carved a unique path by blending energetic intelligence with strategic leadership. Based in Lisbon and expanding into Dubai, she's on a mission to help women build soul-aligned, multi-million pound or dollar businesses that make real impact. Jody, welcome and thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited.
Let's start with your background. Can you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Absolutely. I came from a big career in corporate advertising, and I was working for some of the biggest ad agencies in London. I was handling big accounts like Nike and Lululemon and mobile phones like Sony Ericsson. I had this moment where I was sitting in the big office space of the last agency I worked in. I was feeling at the time like there was something next, but I was very much in my safe zone, in my bubble. And I was a bit afraid to explore the what was next. And so I had this feeling. I remember I was sitting around this table, all of the top execs were there. And suddenly the sort of like masculine voice boomed in my head. Quit your job. I looked up. I was like looking around, like, who's playing a joke on me? What's going on? I actually took myself off to the bathroom and had a conversation with this voice. And I was like, okay, I mean, this is not great timing to quit my job right now. I'm in the middle of buying a property in London. No one knows that I'm planning to quit. Quit your job. It was such a stern voice that I actually took notice and I marched straight to the CEO of the organization, Neil, and I said, I don't know why I'm doing this, Neil, but I quit. It was the most crazy moment, but it was one of those moments where you lean into a scary point, which could feel a bit uncomfortable. And then everything just started to flow from there. So back then, and we're talking about 2012, 2013, I was living in London. I was going to a membership club called Soho House. I was surrounded by entrepreneurs and visionaries at the time, creative people. And yet I didn't have a clue what to do. Like, what do I do? Where do I go from here? Fortunately, a couple of years prior, I had taken a year off, taken a sabbatical to go traveling around South America. Before long on my travels, I found myself with a really powerful indigenous culture. They actually taught me many of their principles and values. And that revealed some great knowledge in me consciously, which was the fact the mind creates conditions in the body, creates illnesses, viruses, diseases in the body. And so I had that knowledge back then, and that created this thirst for psychology. I just needed to know everything about how our mind created conditions in the body. And that led me, whilst I was working advertising, to go off and study in all these different healing modalities and therapeutic techniques, therapy, psychology, everything that I could sort of study behind the scenes. So when I quit my job, yes, I had nothing to go to. Yes, I was buying an apartment in London, but I had this feeling that could be something next. I could somehow bring everything that I'd learned behind the scenes together and create a career, except we're talking central London, 2013. No one is talking about meditation back then, let alone therapy or psychology or the fact that the stress from the mind creates illness in the body. And so I took 3 months off and then I did what every marketeer does. I built a website myself and I started to figure out the answer to the question, what do I do? What is my next chapter? So I literally built a new career through building a website and having to work out what was my proposition, what was I doing, why was I doing it, and how did it work? And they were some of the most profound questions that I had to answer back then. And so I then took a clinic in central London in a beautiful, very affluent neighborhood called Marylebone. And I started seeing 25 to 35 clients a week. And I simultaneously launched a career as a public speaker. I would send proposals in to brands like Nike and Estee Lauder and big global brands that I had worked with in my ad career. And sooner or later, I was speaking on big global stages in front of thousands of people. Really, that's where my career started. And just to add, I'm a girl from Liverpool in the north of England. And so if you're listening to this and you're from the UK, I'm also from the UK. I grew up in a very interesting environment, and it really shaped the person I am today. So this is my background.
So your journey that took you from Liverpool, as you said, to the corporate world in London was then you made this pivot into entrepreneurship based on this voice in your head that just said, you've got to quit, you've got to do something else. And that then led you down to learning about psychology and mental well-being, meditation. Things, as you said, people were really not talking about as openly. But a lot of this was informed from the trip. And your trip that you took to Peru had impact on this?
100%, yes.
So that learning that you had from Peru, where the mind creates conditions in the body, is then what came back to you and you said, okay, I need to dive into this. I need to find out. And it is so true that our mind is so powerful that it can really affect so many things. An amazing story so far. So tell us a little bit more about energetic intelligence. What does it mean? How do we apply it in a business context? And how do you help women tap into it?
Amazing. Thank you for this. So times are changing. We are what we call becoming more conscious, right? That basically means that we are now understanding that to build businesses and to have incredible high-flying careers, there is more that's required aside from traditional business strategy, marketing, sales, promotions, operations, all the pillars that make up a successful business or a successful career. We are now understanding that things like burnout, things like stress, anxiety, play into how successful or not our businesses and our careers are. I'm going to go one step further than that because what I'm very fascinated about and something that I learned very early on, because I toured around Europe and the States learning from different teachers actually about the energetic work. And I started to learn about the energetic work back in 2014 or 15, around that time. I started to understand that according to quantum physics, we are energy, like we're energy particles. If you've ever analyzed energy particles, you will know that energy particles, what do? We vibrate, like the energy particles vibrate. They vibrate. When we're ill or when we're stressed out, when we're anxious, we vibrate at a lower level versus when we're feeling on track, when we're aligned, when we're fulfilling our purpose, when we're looking after ourselves, we vibrate at a higher level. So according to quantum physics, it's actually very simple. Now, what's further interesting to me was learning about our genetic information through a modality called epigenetics. So what that says is we actually inherit information from our parents and their parents, and actually from our ancestral lineage. Many indigenous cultures already know this. This is not new news. But it is new news for the Western world. Just imagine this for a second. I really aim to explain everything in a very simplistic manner because I don't think there's any point not being simplistic because I want everyone to understand this. So imagine for a second, you show up in your business. Now, here you are in your own energetic system, which is you, right? So there's physical you, there's all of the physical body you have an emotional body as well. You have a spiritual body, whatever that means to you. You have an energetic body. So you're coming to the table in a board meeting, let's say, with your insecurities, self-doubt, your vision, your marketing ideas, like all of you. You can't separate your positive attributes from your negative attributes. When you come to the table, you bring all of you. That's just how it is, right? And so imagine for a second that you're at the boardroom table and you're bringing all of you. So you're sharing ideas, you're sharing strategies, but you also have some insecurities going on. That's natural. But then In addition, we are also bringing to the table our genetic programming. Just like a computer has programs, we're bringing our genetic programming. So we're bringing our parents' belief systems about success and money. We're bringing our ancestral belief systems about success and money. When we enter into a new location like Dubai or the States, and we are new to that region, we are bringing our genetic information to Dubai's genetic information as well. So that is part to do with our understanding of the energetic side. It is to say that when we show up in a boardroom for business, because we are our business, because we have created our business, right? Or if you're in a career, you are a member of staff, you're an employee at whatever level, but you are also in the business system. We're bringing all this information to the business. So that's the first side of just bringing awareness to this understanding of, let's call it psychological energetics. So if you have an awareness of that, then you can work with it and it doesn't hold you back and it doesn't sabotage. The second part of this, based on the quantum physics analogy for us that I just revealed a little bit earlier on, you're vibrating and you are constantly giving out information, which is intangible. It's invisible. You don't know. You're not literally looking at yourself and seeing like formulas and codes, intangible writing going out to life, but it's happening because quantum physics suggests we are energy and vibration. We are vibrating particles. So we are giving off information to, I call it the field, and this is a physics term, the field. So you can call it life, you can call it the universe, you can call it the creation field, doesn't matter. You're constantly in correspondence on a quantum physics level with the information around you. So that's people, other businesses, Dubai, America, if you do business there, Singapore, if you do business there, other industries. We're having an ongoing conversation that's an intangible conversation with our surroundings. And so again, when we're aware of this, and this is quantum physics, when we're aware of this, we can start to positively manipulate this information that we are giving out because there is this fantastic law, physics law, called the law of attraction, which basically means we get back what we put out. I mean, there's more to it than that, but that's in essence an energetic law. And so we can positively manipulate the information we give out. Therefore, that positively allows us to receive a more higher frequency or higher energetic vibrational information back to us. And this is when you start to see people who are more conscious doing business from this perspective, therefore understanding the importance of diving deeply into releasing blockages, releasing anxiety, releasing stress, therefore being able to see a more positive result in their life. So that's in essence what that means. And I'll give you a really true to life example here. So when I network, for example, let's say I'm going in to do some business networking, and let's say that the room that I'm going into has thousands of people from all different industries, all different businesses. I'm not going to go into that room thinking to myself, okay, let's play a numbers game here. Statistically speaking, I'm going to reach out to 100 people in this room, and out of that 100 people, I'm going to leave with 10 really good leads. I don't think like that. Instead, what I do is I go into that room of 1,000 people and I am energetically powered up. I am in my full power. I am radiating positivity. I am completely aligned and excited about what I have to share, who I am as a person. I'm confident. I walk into that room and I stand there and I allow the people to come to me. And this is what I call effortless networking. You better believe it. By the time I have exchanged information, I have 20 amazing business cards. We are all completely on the same page. They are aligned with my vision before I even need to vocalize it. I follow up with everybody afterwards and we're all on the same page. And to me, that's energy efficiency in motion. To me, that is the true essence of productivity. These new tactics and new strategies that I am discussing with people and inviting them to deploy in the business world maximize the amount of time that we have and minimize the amount of wastage that we tend to give off. For me, it's all about 2026 and beyond is all about energy efficiency. It's about precision. And it's actually very simple to deploy lots of these strategies and techniques and tactics.
Absolutely fascinating. You went through a ton of things there that I will not remember off bat. So the basic two things is that we are energy and vibration, and that we are interacting with our environment and then able to manipulate or positively influence the environment around us based on how we ourselves are feeling inside and how the vibrations that we are putting out into the world. If I've got that boiled down correctly.
That's exactly it.
This is all absolutely fascinating and quite different from what most people talk about when they talk about, mentoring and encouraging and coaching people. How receptive are people to this message and to this way of thinking and this learning?
It's a very interesting question. Thank you for this. It is honestly all about the communicator or the leader of a new message being fully integrated and embodied in that message. So what that means is that I have studied this for 12 years, 13 years at this point. I have studied it. I have dived very deeply into it. I have contemplated hours and hours and hours of research. I have contemplated my own insights and my own intuitive information as well. And I have always been a pioneer from the days where I was speaking about meditation in 2013 in central London and being a bridge, that's at a very simplistic level, to weaving in this information about the energetics of business into talks and bodies of work that I've been deploying ever since. The statistic that you listed out at the beginning, I have helped 100,000, mainly women, with their relationship with money. And that's one of the other brands that I have had and launched in 2015, Magnificent Money. And we've had incredible success with that topic of conversation, but that is also bringing the energetics of money into the conversation. So being able to affect 100,000 people in 80 countries around the world, there's something right happening here. It's very much about the presenter and the leader of a body of work, of a new message being really embodied. So that means years and years of contemplation, of embodiment essentially means taking the theory and the theoretical information from the mind and actually bringing it deeply into my body, into my knowledge, into my wisest self. We have been in a 2,500 year era in astrology called the Age of Pisces. And that's very much been about scientific breakthroughs, logical advancements, using the mind, very important things that we broke through within in those last 2,500 years. Very important problems solved, very important progression happened. Now we're in what we call in astrology, the Age of Aquarius. The Age of Aquarius is interesting, is a lot to do with technology, which is why we're seeing AI and robotics massively surge in popularity, which is why we're also seeing the age of the entrepreneurship. So the Age of Aquarius is also about regaining the power back to the self. It's about personalization. It's about, various different concepts crumbling down in order for us to rise up as entrepreneurs. That's why entrepreneurship is exploding left, right, and center. So this era, it's about a deeper sense of who we are. It's about understanding that, yes, we do create our reality, which, like you alluded to, Hilmarie, is a very different way of seeing things for sure. But you will start to see more and more people around you in your network being more open, just naturally being more open. Sometimes we have to have a bit of a breakdown to have a breakthrough. Depends on our journey, but you will find more and more beyond 2027 that there's conversations happening around the energetic side, and it will feel very, very normal in a very short amount of time. So I've never had a problem conveying this message because I've always been extremely in my body, extremely sure in what I'm saying, very certain. And, the results speak for themselves, for my clients' results. I saw a client for a 90-minute session a few months ago. And the next minute, she is experiencing $11 million in results. Understanding that everything is energy. Actually, money is energy. Like, if we strip money back to its original terminology, money is the energy of exchange, right? It's basic. So I employ you, Hilmarie, for something. I give you money, and in exchange, you give me a service. It's the energy of exchange. Money is energy. There's no emotion around money. Money's not emotional. Money doesn't really care if it's around in your life or not. But we get very emotional around money, right? So money's the energy of exchange. Like business is the energy of exchange. We're literally exchanging qualities or trades or talents or abilities in business. We have just made it everything very, very complicated.
So interesting. And it makes absolute sense. As you say, at the end of the day, we are all exchanging energy for something else. We've mentioned it a few times. You've mentioned it. I've also mentioned it in the intro that you have mentored thousands of women globally. What patterns do you see that hold women back from scaling with confidence?
I love this question so much. One of the biggest fears coming up, and very often this is what we call a subconscious/unconscious fear. So that means it lives in the part of the mind that is under the water. So the mind's like an iceberg, right? So the bit above the water is the conscious mind. It's stuff we are very, very aware of. The bit below the surface is subconscious, unconscious. Unconscious means that we have no idea that it's there. Subconscious means we are semi-aware. The biggest fear that I feel is present amongst women is a fear of how powerful we are, actually, how powerful we can be. This is not new news either. Like people talk about this all over social media, the fear of your power. However, it's relative, right? So naturally, if you're a woman making, let's say, $1 million in revenue a year, you are going to the next level in your career or your business. And the next level is 10 million a year in revenue. It's a different version of you that is at the 10 million mark versus the you that is at the million mark. So think about it logically. The you that's at the million mark just makes very different decisions versus the you that's at the 10 million mark. Like very different mindset, very different presence, very different level of power. And so I believe due to many different points in history where we as women have had different roles, where we have been given different responsibilities. I don't know, in my ancestral lineage, I've had farmers in my ancestral lineage, like women that were very much operating a farm. I've had women that have not been making the money and the men have been making the money. I've had women in power as well. Women have this unconscious dysfunction with power. We have a dysfunctional relationship with power. Now, what's interesting is that we can observe women in power on our planet right now. And yet, women are very much in power from a very masculine, dominating energy. And I'm being very, very generalizing here. But generally speaking, right now, the women in power are very much in their masculine because they've never known another way of doing it. Now, what I'm suggesting and what I am seeing more and more, and what I am encouraging my clients to do, I am seeing in my industry. When I say my industry, I mean, I'm an entrepreneur, I have multiple businesses, but let's say self-development industry, mentoring, strategic advice, consultancy. In that industry, I see women in my industry who have got to the 100 million revenue mark through scaling their business from understanding how to do business like a woman versus how to do business as a woman like a man. And it's very, very different. Very different because what they are experimenting with, and thank goodness they are experimenting with this, they are experimenting with scaling their business using the art of business energetics, which is absolutely understanding everything we've talked about thus far on the podcast and realizing that when you push things to happen, you put resistance and pressure on them, and they're very likely not going to work out. So building and scaling a business from a feminine energy is understanding that we are energy. We have power within us. We have to release the internal blockages, distortion, resistance, anxiety, postponement, overthinking, perfectionism. All of that energy has to be released, which can happen very quickly with the right guidance, the right advice, in order to rise as a woman in her power, in order to assemble the right team beneath her, in order to not micromanage the right team, in order to set the team up for success, in order to set the operations side up for success, in order to price offerings, product, services at the right level so they're not undervaluing, undercharging. There are many aspects of a business. Marketing, for example, I was taught traditional marketing, traditional promotional strategies, traditional advertising, traditional sales. Sell from scarcity. give people time limits, give people pressure. That is going to work less and less beyond 2027. What is going to work more is empowerment in sales, understanding things like the fact that your business has its own energetic blueprint. Your business has its own intention. Your business has its own ambition. So do you. You're in partnership with your business. All of these radical way out new techniques and new concepts that I'm bringing to the table. This stuff's going to be common knowledge beyond 2027. Let's watch and let's observe. It's very interesting when we start to see women burning out in big corporate careers, and it's happening all around us. We know people who it's happening to right now. We know people affected by this. We're seeing also, especially in my world or in my networks or in my industry, women transforming into very powerful women, understanding that to be a woman that's making 8-9 figures in revenue, it's not a question of whether this woman deserves it or not. It's a question of, is this woman open and willing to play with the energetics of wealth and money? Is this woman open and willing to shift their whole mentality and do things differently? Is this woman willing to stop pushing things through with force and might and actually starting to understand that there's more to it and understand how to come into alignment with her values and her vision? And just to finish, one of the biggest things that I talk about is the vision. And this is a second answer to your original question about what's the biggest thing that holds women back. The second biggest thing I see is that women are reluctant to define and solidify a vision for themselves. Because it probably means that when that's solidified and in place and being discussed every day and brought into their current business model, they're going to have to accelerate their power. So it sort of ties into the first example. But B, when we start to solidify a vision, everything starts to ramp up. Everything starts to flow very quickly. And what's very apparent to me very quickly when I'm working with a client and we start to solidify the vision is that all of the blockages, limiting beliefs, all of the conditions, all of the programming, let's call it, the dysfunctional programming that's holding them back comes right up to the surface to be looked at. And that isn't always the most comfortable journey. But when we're learning, we're expanding. And when we're expanding, we are not in our comfort zone. We are far out of the comfort zone. And so I'm super excited about this work. I'm super excited to open up this conversation more and more.
I can hear that. It's absolutely fascinating. And it makes sense that to be successful, women should not be approaching their leadership or the way they do things from a male or masculine sense or energy, but from a feminine energy, because that is where you're going to then tap into your own energy and your own vibrations to realize success. I also love that you are talking from experience. You have realized success in business and entrepreneurship. Also, what's interesting is what you say about vision, that women are reluctant to define the vision for themselves, which then makes it difficult to align with their own energy and vibrations. I want to come back to this idea of you having realized success in business and entrepreneurship. You've built ventures like Magnificent Money and Visionary Entrepreneuress. What's the core mission behind these brands?
Amazing. Thank you. I'm going to add one to the portfolio because I'm acquiring it at the moment. I'm absolutely in acquisition right now in terms of obtaining a fragrance brand in the non-toxic space, so the clean beauty space. So what's the commonality or the common theme with all of these businesses and these ventures that myself and my team grow and scale? Service, supporting humanity to grow, supporting humanity to become more connected with themselves, supporting the planet, I guess, as a secondary benefit, because when we're more aware of ourselves and our footprint, and we're more aware of us being more conscious with ourselves, then the planet benefits because we are the planet. We are connected to the planet. Everything is connected. It's really about Magnificent Money is a brand that served 100,000 people, like you said. And right now we have a certification program. So we actually certify mainly women at the moment to be money coaches, to learn the tools and the techniques and the methods to dive deeply into their transformation around money, and also to apply what we're teaching them to their careers. Doesn't need to be that they become a money coach. That is all about repairing the relationship with yourself, because as I mentioned before, and I talk a lot about money, I'm very passionate about talking about money. Money doesn't have any emotion at all. Money is simply something that we use to purchase something. And so we project emotion onto money. So being able to have an incredible relationship with money means that you're able to have an incredible relationship with yourself in terms of your value, how you value yourself. So when you are operating at a high value frequency, everyone around you benefits because it rubs off. This stuff rubs off. Your children benefit, your partner benefits, your neighbors, your family, your parents, everybody benefits without you needing to do a whole lot to educate them. When you start with yourself, whether you're working on your relationship with money, or you're scaling a business to multiple 8-9 figures in revenue, or you're acquiring a new business like myself, and you're going back to startup phase again. It's all about the relationship with yourself first, because you create the business, you create the career, you create the bank accounts. It's all from you. So all of these businesses have this focus on transforming yourself in order to transform others, or in order to transform your ecosystem, or in order to transform your clients, your customers through your business. It's this incredible ripple effect. And honestly, when I tune into the fact that we've helped 100,000 people in many different ways, that's overwhelming for me to actually receive. That's overwhelming for me to contemplate. That's overwhelming because the me back in 2012, 13 never could have imagined that it would have got to this point. Never could have imagined that a scrappy little career or business back then could have molded itself into what we have now. My clients in Visionary Entrepreneuress, who are already highly successful women, and some men are coming in, even though it's called Visionary Entrepreneuress, there are men coming in too. These people, these humans are leaders. So I'm a leader of leaders within that particular business. And those leaders that I'm supporting are impacting some millions of people. And so again, the ripple effect is huge. And then I have another brand called Extraordinary Power within the Visionary Entrepreneuress remit. And that helps women making about 15 to 20K a month in revenue. My team are very heavily involved in that. That again is helping leaders, aspiring leaders, and their audiences. And then finally, this non-toxic fragrance brand. This is supporting humanity's evolution because there is a huge movement, or let's call it a pivot, towards clean beauty right now. Korea are really leading the charge with this. There is an opening, there is an emergence of conscious beauty brands, meaning we don't see as many chemicals in these clean beauty brands. And there's a whole shelf in Sephora right now in the UAE, all around, that has clean beauty products and brands. So this is a huge growth industry. It's a growth industry that's expanding very fast. And a segment of this clean beauty industry is fragrances, because fragrances are scientifically proven to create hormone disruption within women. I don't know. I love fragrances. I love fragrances. I'm a fragrance connoisseur, but I want to be knowing that when I'm spraying fragrances all around me, on my hair and my clothes and my thyroid and my throat, that I'm safe, that I'm not disrupting my hormones. And so it's very interesting for me to explore this new opportunity with a view to also helping people, with a view to supporting people. And so everything that I create is from that place of, how can I serve? Is this what the world needs right now? Does the world need somebody who allows very high profile leaders to actually start to lead from a more conscious standpoint in alignment with where the future of the planet's going, in alignment with where the future of the world's going? Is it what the world needs for me to support hundreds of thousands of women mainly to have a better relationship with money? Some people might disagree and might say, yeah, but why are you helping people with money? Money's wrong, money's evil, money's bad. I mean, this is all the stuff that we help them overcome. More money in the hands of more good-hearted people investing into powerful, conscious businesses and causes that are going to help the planet expand. I mean, isn't this what we need? Don't we need to clean the wealth, to clean the money, to redistribute the wealth amongst the planet a bit more evenly? And so everything that I'm creating, I ask the question, is this what the world needs moving forwards? And it's from that place that I then start to create things.
I love that your passion, you're clearly very passionate about what you're doing, but it's not just very limited. It's not limited into just one thing. You are, as you say, supporting humanity, whether that is helping people to grow, to get more connected to themselves, or whether that's taking a beauty product and helping us clean the earth and use cleaner products. That's also related along the same lines. And I'm so sure that your message of and your passion for wanting to help people will resonate with our audience. Now we have come to the segment of our show where I will ask you some rapid fire questions, our version of a game show. Are you ready?
Yes.
What's one word that defines your leadership style?
Alignment.
Morning ritual that you swear by?
Meditation and journaling, which is very basic and easy, but works for me.
A book every female entrepreneur should read?
Wow. The first book I read on relationships, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus.
Biggest lesson from building a global personal brand?
Energetics first, strategy second.
One thing you tell your younger self just starting out?
Entrepreneurship is like a marathon with no endpoint. You've got to keep on running.
Very good. And I think you might have answered this, but I'll ask it anyway. What is one thing you do every day, no matter how busy you get?
It's a health thing. Move and have my electrolyte.
Thank you for playing along. That was easy enough. Now I'd like to ask you our signature green pill question. Could you share an inspiring or life-changing experience that you have gone through, your green pill moment?
Yes. I'm going to share something that I went through, which was extremely life-changing. And that was writing my first book back in 2015. So I had no intention to write a book at all. And back then it was 2014 when I was recruited by this big publishing house. Things were moving very, very fast in my career. There was a big publishing house that came to one of my inspirational talks. They recruited me straight away and they put a book deal on the table with a big, chunky advance. At the time, I didn't really know if it was something to pursue. I wasn't really sure if it was the right thing, but I just went along with it and I allowed it to flow anyway. And I have to say that writing a book about your journey and yourself is one of the most challenging things that you could ever go through. And this book was also about tools and techniques to support you to have breakthroughs and transformation. But I had to really sit with my story, contemplate my story really deeply and tell my story. And what happens when you're writing about yourself is that it unlocks the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind / unconscious mind, we mentioned this already, it's essentially the part of your brain that is below the surface. And so when you start to write about yourself, the subconscious / unconscious mind is like, game on. Let's bring up to the surface all of the things that you'd forgotten about that you need to address. And as you can imagine, we've all been through stuff in our childhood and teenage years. And there was some really, really confronting things that I had to bring up to the surface through writing. There were some memories that came up that I'd totally suppressed and forgotten about. And the whole experience for me was stressful because I was under deadlines, timelines, like I had to get proofs to them. They had to go through the proofs. It was a really hard, very iterative process. And I had to face a lot of skeletons in my closet. I was really, really afraid of releasing this book when I think back on it. I was really afraid. And I've been through such a big emotional journey. My other colleagues in the same publishing house were releasing books on food blogging at the time or like fitness blogging. Here's me releasing the first book of its kind in this mega publishing house owned by a big US company, big corporate like Hachette or something like that, presenting this book that was full of my story. And so it made me realize that I was much, much stronger and more resilient than I gave myself credit for. And B, I pretty much wrote the whole thing myself and did employ some editing support just at the end to finesse it. But I pretty much wrote the whole thing myself. I did not think I was a writer at all. I failed art in school, so I would have totally written myself off as a creative. I had a book, I wrote it. I went through a huge transformational journey through doing that. And to this day, every time I talk about this, so thank you for giving me the opportunity, I realize more and more and more things through the telling of this story. For the longest time, it was such a traumatic process that I didn't want to write anymore. I didn't want to write a book again. It's only now, all these years later, that I'm starting to create the material for my next one. So that was definitely one of the most life-changing moments that I went through in my career so far, and very unexpected as well.
Wow, thank you so much for sharing that experience, and what a transformational journey it was for you to write a book. I think most of us probably think we don't have it in us to write a book, even though we have stories to tell. And as you said, what happened to us in our childhood plays such a big role, such a big impact for the rest of our lives. But to dig back into that can be very emotional and bring up a lot of feelings and memories and things you might have been suppressing for a long time. So thank you so much for sharing that.
Great.
Thank you for this empowering and energizing conversation. Your journey from corporate to conscious leadership is truly inspiring, and your insights on purpose and energetics will surely resonate with our listeners. Was there anything else that I should have asked you about that I've missed that you would like to cover?
I feel that we've covered everything. It's been such a thorough, deep, in-depth conversation. And thank you for listening to everything and interpreting it all so well. Like, I really, really appreciate that. The final thing I'll say is very often to go all in on something that we really believe in and turn it into a business. Very often it's a very solo journey, and it can feel lonely at times. We can feel like we're the only one banging that drum. We can feel like we're the only one with a vision of this nature. What I've learned from just years of moving forwards and forging new pathways before many other people is that when you're in alignment with your values, when you really know deep down in your soul, let's say, that what you're speaking about is right, it just might take a little bit of time to catch on. You just keep going, because the world needs people who are willing to explore these new ideas that we have, to move forwards on new messaging and be really brave in the pursuit of greatness, let's say. You are not alone. If you're in a corporate career right now thinking of leaving, do it. You're not alone. There are so many startup businesses and entrepreneurs out there. Like, we're all cheering each other on. And if you are someone who's already well ahead in your business journey, keep going. Innovate at the top. Growth is infinite. You're never going to hit an end destination. It doesn't exist. You're going to constantly evolve and constantly innovate. I mean, my mother has retrained as a hypnotherapist at 71. Before that, she was a restaurateur, then a restaurant consultant. She's got a psychology degree. At 74 now, she's got a sold-out clinic just off Harley Street, which is a very successful area in London for clinicians and practitioners. You know, we are evolving at every age. It's never too late. It's really about how willing are we to actually lean into discomfort and learn new things and stick by ourselves, like back ourselves. A lot of this is about backing ourselves. And yeah, I love that. So I'm super excited for all of us in our journey this year, next year, and beyond.
Fantastic. I love that message. Thank you for sharing that. We're not alone, and it's never too late. I love the story that you told about your mom retraining at 71. I think that is absolutely brilliant. Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you or learn more about Magnificent Money and Visionary Entrepreneuress?
Amazing. So I'm on Instagram at Jody Shield, JODYSHIELD. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm getting better at LinkedIn. Again, the same handle, Jody Shield. JODYSHIELD, and Visionary Entrepreneuress lives on my website, jodyshield.co.uk, and Magnificent Money lives on the Magnificent Money website, magnificentmoney.co.uk. I'll be excited to meet you there.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Matrix Green Pill podcast. If you're an entrepreneur or entrepreneuress ready to lead with intention, we hope today's episode gave you the boost to take the next bold step. If this conversation inspired you, as it did me, please subscribe and leave us a 5-star review. We really appreciate that. As Jody said, we'll put that out into the world and it will come back. Until next time, stay inspired and live with intention.
If you enjoy our conversations, please like and subscribe. See you next Wednesday.